when we start to believe that like I am valuable and I can contribute, like this crazy thing happens inside, right? Where we start feeling better about ourselves and the way we see the world is so different.
Hello and welcome. I want to introduce you to a man that I love and I'm honored to call my friend. Richard Burrell is the founder and executive director of Again Fresno, a nonprofit organization that brings love and support to some of the most vulnerable people in our city. The impact of Again Fresno over the last decade has been nothing short of miraculous. I have learned so much from his wisdom, and I think you will be blessed by hearing his story.
My name is Richard Burrell. I am the founder and executive director of Again Fresno.
And what was it like growing up in the Parkway Drive area?
Yeah. Growing up in Parkway Drive, Parkside area was a complete culture shock to me, right? Born in the Bay Area, moved around a lot as a kid, and then lived in Montana for a few years. And then my mom actually moved here. I've told the story before how she wanted to be in a place where she knew no one and no one knew her, right? Running from all of the challenges that she had in the past and ended up coming here, right? Yeah, it was just wild to me. And so as a kid, like I didn't know that we were living in motels. I didn't know any of that. I just thought we lived in apartment complexes. It was kind of the same scenery as I had grown up as a kid, like all the sex work, gang stuff, drugs, whatnot. So that part it wasn't like a culture shock to me or anything like that. It was like, oh, I'm back in this kind of place and just trying to make the best of it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
It was normal.
It was very normal. Gotcha.
Uh-huh.
Going on from when you were a kid, like what pathway kind of track was your life on, young adult?
Yeah, I feel like there was a definite trajectory that my life was on in terms of just lack of opportunities, right? The only opportunities that were open to me was the gang stuff, drug stuff, straight pipeline to prison or to an early grave, right? Yeah, there was not a whole lot of options that were open for me as a young person, which was really interesting. I feel like I've been in a place where I can do a lot of reflection in the last year and a half. And the opportunities that existed were very limited. However, there's always been people in my life who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, right? That heard something in the words that I was saying, or maybe that I wasn't saying, that caused them to care just a little more, right? I've told the story a few times about this teacher who really enjoyed reading short stories and poems that I would write, right? And she knew we had no money. And so she would buy these journals. And then once I filled these journals up, she would buy them back from me, right? So it encouraged me to write, to share at least with her, and also put some money in my pocket, which was super cool. Yeah.
And then how and when did that path change?
Yeah. 2007 into 2007, beginning of 2008, like I had got to a place where I had kids and wanted to be a dad. I had a wife and wanted to be a husband, right? I had a family and I wanted to be a family man. However, had spent so much of my life just wrapped up in gang culture, right? And I've said it before, it felt dishonorable to walk away from that and actually do something better for myself and my family. And not knowing how to do so, I started drinking a lot. There were two specific incidences that like really put the nail in the final coffin for me. One was I got a DUI, which I felt absolutely horrible about. The thought that I could have hurt an innocent person, it bothered me so much. It bothered me so much. And then being so blackout drunk that I had left a weapon out on the floor, right? My kids weren't home, no one was hurt, but definitely was aware of like guilt and shame, right, for these two things, and put myself into a program far away from here where I would have no outside influence, right? Nobody saying, hey, you need me to bring you, what, right? Like, no, man, I just left here, went and got sober on top of a mountain, had an amazing experience, and came back, and my life has never been the same.
Why did you decide to serve children and families in the Parkway Drive area?
Yeah.
What year did that take place?
Yeah. So October of 2011, I had been super familiar with, from living here, right? Motel Drive and Parkway Drive, and lived in a house with my children less than a mile from here. And so I knew the sights and sounds. I also knew the smells, right? That existed in the rooms here. It is very, it's a very unique odor. And I knew that I needed to do something. I didn't know what the something was, right? And so there was a series of events that like led me to this parking lot, to this place, and figuring out along the way what it was that I was supposed to be doing. Even in the last 14 years, that has changed and evolved and grown in so many different ways, right? But definitely October 2011 was when I first stepped out of a truck and out of my truck and started connecting with folks in this community. And spending so much time here in conversations with community, you learn to, I've learned that the needs change, right? Sometimes it's political administrations that drive the needs in the community. Sometimes it's safety, whatever the thing is, right? To be connected to and in touch with your community so that as those needs change, together we come up with ways to support the rest of our community and ourselves. Understanding that like 100%, it takes all of us, right? It literally takes a village, being the grandmothers and grandfathers here, the aunties, the churches, the school, Jane Addams Elementary, Alondra Community Schools, Fresno Unified and Project Access, right? Building healthy community. I could go on and on, right? City council, county supervisors, all these different folks, Fresno County Office of Education, who play very unique and important roles in supporting this community. Yeah. Building that whole network out has been crazy. Yeah. Because I always thought no one cared about this space, right? I had this belief that most folks felt that like, well, as long as it's over there, it's okay, right? And what I've learned is that there are a great number of folks who care, and they care a lot, right? They either started, work for organizations whose entire missions is to support academic achievement, literacy, health, improving health outcomes, right? Housing, whatever their mission is, and it 100% overlaps with the mission of Live Again Fresno and the work that needs to happen in this community. And so what I've learned is that like it's not the folks didn't care, it's that they didn't have a pathway in to connect with folks here. And so I feel like that has been an honor to build that bridge, right? To create an actual like inroad for all the great resources that exist all around this community, right? To create pathways that come in with the permission of residents from this community saying, yes, we want you here, we need you at the table. Mm-hmm.
And you weren't even sure like what to do, but as you took steps, that became more clear.
Yeah, October 2011, I was unsure, right? I knew that I had to do something, right? You show up to a dance, you know, like I'm supposed to dance, but I don't know how to dance, right? So what's the first thing that you do? You ask somebody, right? If you're lucky enough, someone asks you, which I was asked, when are you coming back? But also I needed to ask people, like, what's going on here, right? What are the biggest needs here? And then being quiet enough to actually like hear them, and then figure out how to coordinate efforts to address those needs. I still feel like today I don't know what I'm doing 100%, right? But I have an incredible team of like just highly passionate and very intelligent folks behind me, who still do the very thing, sitting in community, having conversations and learning.
What is the mission of Living in Fresno?
The mission of The mission of Live Again Fresno is to improve educational and health outcomes for children and families living in Parkside and Jane Addams community.
And now we know there's this change, and in 2011, so now it's 2026.
Yeah.
So it's 15 years later almost.
Yeah.
What is your life like now?
Yeah. So, oftentimes I think back on this, right? Like, we can be young or even just a little naive and think that, like, if I get sober, if I go to church, if I start doing good things in the community, then my life is just going to be so much better. And that's not always the case, right? I'm going to say this first. My life is great. Right, I have a house full of amazing kids. I have an amazing team who supports me in every way imaginable, and I have the love and respect of an entire community. That is huge. That is wealth, right? But I think sometimes we can say, like, everything is gonna be better now, right? Like, yeah. And the truth is that, like, atrocities still happen, heartbreaks still happen, right? Really hard to process things still happen. I sit with folks out yesterday and just hear like really hard stories. But the beauty in that is that today I am sober, right? And so my perspective is a lot clearer. And because I've walked in this way for so long, people trust you with their stories. In some cases, trust you with their safety. And even bigger than that, trust you with their children, right? To feed them, to care for them, to transport them, to create better pathways and better opportunities for them. And that's huge, right? So my life is 100% better, full, very full. But I think there was a point where I was just so naive and thinking like all the hurt is gone. No, we live in a world filled with people, right? And so like that human element sometimes is just not the best intentions. And so that's always gonna be there, right? But making sure that we co-power, right? For me to say empower means that I gave the power to them.
It's all you.
Yeah. And the fact that young people in our community already have that power, right? To recognize that it's crucial. To make sure that they recognize that it's critical. Yeah.
How does Live Again Fresno serve children and families in the community?
Yeah. Live Again Fresno stopped serving children and families in this community probably in 2014. And what I learned then was that we needed to start walking alongside families and partnering with families in this community. There definitely early on was this mindset of like, I'm providing. And without other people, other resources coming in, there wouldn't be that, right? So just the realization of it takes all of us. It takes every resource coming together to support these kids. And so since 2014, when we got our official letter of determination from the United States government, from the IRS, we have been doing our absolute best to partner with this community and walk alongside folks in every single way that they will give us permission to. This could be holding community meetings at our meeting space, 1145 West Hedges. This could be the after-school program that Live Again Fresno facilitates Monday through Friday from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock. This could be the food outreach that's done in partnerships with Alondra Belmontes and community schools to better support this entire community. It could be through literacy projects, art, music, dance. There are so many ways that in the past, especially the past like 7 years, that we've figured out to partner with folks who live here on issues like air pollution, literacy, food, transportation, right? Yeah.
What's your favorite part of your role?
Oh my gosh. My favorite part of my role is 100% being with the kids. It is a very, damn, I feel all this emotion come up. It is a very fine line walking with these children. Any day that I'm there, there will be a number of young people, young kids who address me as like, Dad, right? And while I feel a tremendous honor in that, sometimes I recognize that it's because there isn't one, right? And so we have conversations, very loving conversations about like who I actually am. But for sure, my favorite part is interacting with the young people here, watching them laugh. More times than not, at like if we're at a laser tag place or one of the big trampoline parks, more times than not, you'll catch me sitting off to the side and just smiling, man, and sometimes crying, right? Because to see children laugh and play and not be looking for a conflict or opposition, right? They're just being kids. Like, to me, that is one of the most beautiful parts of this job. I love that. Also, watching our young people grow up, Natalie has been telling me for years, like, I'm gonna take your job. The chair's open, man, get it, right? But to see them like grow up in the program over a 10, 12, 13-year period, and they're now on staff, right? Natalie and Legend are like great examples of that. And I look forward to the ones who are coming down the pipeline in the future, for sure. Yeah, that to me is like excellence. Yeah. Because you think about this, right? Like, for a child like Natalie, who spent a majority of her life living in motels, right? Very limited resources, including furniture. Your bed is your kitchen table, is your couch. And the mental health challenges that come along with that, nutritional challenges that come along with that, to bring her on staff and just create the opportunities, right? There's maybe a little bit of training. She already has incredible vision paired with real life experience from this neighborhood. She knows firsthand what works and what doesn't work, right? So we listen to her a lot. To think about a child, a 5-year-old who grew up in that, who is now 18, and spearheading our push to build a strong national network, right? In just a couple months, she'll be in New Orleans, connecting with some folks down there who are doing incredible work, right? To help increase awareness about what we're doing here, but also to like some peer-to-peer learning from there, how to bring best practices here as we strengthen our national network. I think that's incredible, right? Here was this shy, at that point in her life, I would say introverted, and oftentimes very sad child who now is like in charge of things, right? And thinking about, and not just thinking about, but articulating and casting vision for where we're gonna go and how we're going to grow, man, that is incredible. Yeah, that stuff fires me up.
What type of things help lead to that positive change? Like, what have you learned over the years that when these things happen, that's where I start to see change?
When I shut my mouth. It's funny, right? But it's very serious. What I've seen is that the most effective leaders in this neighborhood, whether they are young or like a grandparent, is their ability to sit in the pocket and listen, right? I think only when we practice being fully present, listening with both ears, can we be effective in that way, right? Because it's already given. Leadership who is in the closest proximity has the greatest amount of influence. That's great. If you lack the ability to actually listen to the folks around you, then what good is that influence, right? You get a handshake, everyone knows your name at the corner store or whatever. Maybe you can do some organizing. But when you listen to folks, their respect for you grows, the love and sense of pride that we have in our community grows, and then together we walk forward and do things, right? And so it's very simple for someone who isn't from this community to see some challenges and say, well, this is what I would do. And maybe you're right? Maybe those things will work. However, if you don't even know the name of the people who you are trying to impose that template of what will work on, it gets no play here, right? If you don't know my name or my story, why would I ever do what you're asking me to do? Yeah, so for me, the ability to just sit still and listen is an absolute key to success here.
Just if you speak to that one, because that's how I see you guys operate. That's something I love about what you do.
Yeah, there's a culture that exists within living in Fresno, within the organization, that actually grew out of just being quiet way back in the early days of the Fresno Wind, right? End of 2011, beginning of 2012, when folks started feeling like, oh, I can trust you. I want to share my story with you. And then just totally push you away. And what I would have screamed at me was, you don't understand. Whatever the thing was I didn't understand. And so to ask them, when you're ready, explain it to me. Right? And so whether it was like physical abuse, sexual abuse, abandonment, whatever the thing was, at that time, like I had actual life experience because this was my childhood. And it allowed people to go like, oh, there's no judgment here, right? And so it is very important to me and to the organization that we recognize every individual who visits our community space as exactly that. We may share similar beliefs, we may share similar life experiences, but yours is unique. And when you feel comfortable enough, I want to hear about that, right? Like I want to celebrate the highs and sit and do my best to comfort you during the lows, right? Because we're going to walk this thing out together. And what I think is that over a decade of doing that has created this culture where one of the most powerful things you can do to an individual is, how do I say this? They don't just believe, they know, right? Like I matter. I am seen here. I am heard here. We all want to know someone, right? And I believe that we all desperately want someone to know us. especially the parts of us that we hide, right? Oh, if you knew this, you wouldn't like me. If they heard about this, they'd, right? Especially those parts. Maybe secretly, subconsciously, like we want that part of us to be seen and loved as well. But when the culture that exists in the community doesn't allow that, then it creates situations that are unhealthy. And so we do our absolute best at Live Again Fresno to say, come as you are, right? I see you, I hear you. You've told me 7 times you're allergic to cheese, but you've just eaten 2 pizzas, right? This kid literally was very adamant about lactose intolerant, and then smashed an entire pizza and was fine. So it's like, yes, share your stories with me and we'll walk this thing out together, right? And the way that translates in other stories too, right? It's like, because the truth is, you don't know where that child developed that belief from. Their family may not have been able to afford cheese or milk for their cereal or whatever it was, right? So to be told like, oh, you can't have that anyway, might have just been a way to help cope. And so, being able to see them as unique individuals is super important. Yeah, we love you. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what you're wearing today. Yeah.
Tell me about some of the changes, and you've already talked about Natalie, but in the lives of children, and what were they like before, and then what are they like now?
There are so many stories that I could share about actual change that's happened in the lives of children specifically in this community. We talked about Legend, we talked about Natalie. There's just faces flashing through my mind right now. There are young people who have showed up, right? They get picked up that first day and they come to LAF and we greet them at the gate when they're getting out of the van, and they are just so shy and so quiet and so timid and unsure, right? To watch them weeks or months later just be like, hi, how are you? I'm happy to be here. Or sometimes just way too comfortable, right? Because that one of those same quiet kids yesterday, I had to say, hey, we don't pick our nose and wipe it on the table. You're just way too comfortable, right? He felt like at home just a little bit too much. To watch those changes happen of kids being unsure of themselves and just not having the most confidence, to being like, no, this is where I belong. Right? To know that these kids can, and oftentimes are, approached by recruiters from the gang or folks who want to take them down some other path, but they choose, right? They choose to continue to rock our sweaters, our jerseys, our t-shirts, and say no, that's who I belong to. That's my family. LAF is my family. That part is beautiful. Watching a specific young man who's in 4th grade who folks kind of just gave up on him a little bit, right? He has a hard time sitting still. He also has a hard time reading. And so to see him today putting together PowerPoint, putting together his own PowerPoint, emailing it himself to his teacher so that he could stay with his class, that's power. To see, I think she's 13 now, but there's a 13-year-old who does all of the presentations to our board for our summer programming. When she was 11, right? Very, very quiet, super quiet. That's all you get. She made recommendations to one of our team about how we should spend our summer. That person, that adult, heard what she said and said, well, in order for that to happen, we would have to ask the board for money. How do we do that, right? So this 11-year-old put together her own PowerPoint, right, for trips, how much money it would cost. I think it was for the entire summer. It was like $13,000 or something. And then did her first ever pitch to an executive board and said, I need you to give me this amount of money to go to like place by place by place. This is where we'll go. This is what it takes to get there. This is what we'll learn here, right? Lined out objectives, everything. And in the end was successful. And since then, for the past 2 years, this very quiet and timid child has put together a budget and a proposal for our board for LAF's entire summer programs. Yeah. And so to see kids, like, they want to contribute, they want to give back, right? They want to feel like, yes, I'm helping move this thing, to create the platform where that voice, that vision is now magnified, right? Amplified. That is huge. To watch that kind of growth happen is extraordinary. Miss Janessa Williams, to watch her grow as an intern, a paid intern that was just working for the summer and winter breaks, to take over a role as a program manager and now a Cal A manager, and then get her master's degree, and now, right, just continuing to move forward in the social work field. Like, she didn't believe in herself. She definitely didn't believe that was possible. And now she's walking in like what she once thought was not possible. Like, she's walking it out. Like, that type of growth is incredible. Mm-hmm.
What kind of changes have you seen in families where, what was the dynamic like before versus after?
Yeah. So some of the biggest changes we've seen in families in this community is folks who had maybe some mental illness coupled with an addiction, and just moving from motel to motel, right? And now we're seeing them successful, sober, living in their own houses, in their own apartments, and giving back in whatever ways they can to their own communities here. Folks who felt like they could only work in the fields and that was gonna be their work for the rest of their lives, now owning food trucks and catering business and ice cream places, right? Opening up businesses of their own has been so beautiful to watch. To see folks from our community become more engaged with the school, or more engaged in like civic work that's going on, showing up to city council, speaking on issues that matter. They would have never done that before because they didn't feel like their voice mattered. And if you sit with someone long enough and you hear what they're actually saying, and they feel heard, then they start to feel like what they're saying actually matters. And that is beautiful to watch. Yeah.
Man, for those folks who had the mental illness and the addiction, what happened? How did that change?
Yeah. So sometimes, and what we've seen in a handful of times over the past 10 years is folks who have either diagnosed or undiagnosed, right, some type of mental illness, and they're self-medicating with whatever substance. It could be alcohol or whatever. And not always, but sometimes, right, in some instances, what I've seen is that what was actually going on, or underlying thing, was rooted in this childhood where the person was unseen, unheard, unloved, disregarded, right? And so I feel super honored to be able to spend time with those families and watch them make the progression from like, okay, I don't need to do whatever this substance is, right? I'm just gonna stick to the plan, therapy, whatever it is, and watch them actually heal from the inside out in the same way that this community is, to watch them heal, to watch them shed shame, grief, guilt, right? One by one, to take layers off and become just a fuller, more vibrant version of themselves that can look at themselves in the mirror and say, I like you, right? I love you. I may not always like you, but I like you today, right? Like, that's huge. That's huge. Yeah. When we start to believe that like I am valuable and I can contribute, like this crazy thing happens inside, right? where we start feeling better about ourselves, and the way we see the world is so different. I remember a time when like all I saw was graffiti. All I saw was stuff on the wall, right? I knew the names, I could tell what was written there, who was here, kind of what went on. And today I see people. I see fathers, right, who want to be fathers, mothers who want to be really good moms, and families who are at one point struggling are tapping into resources and like really getting tied in with community and walking forward together in a way that improves their home life, but also improves the community. That is beautiful to me. Mm-hmm.
What kind of changes have you seen, before to now?
Yeah. So for the past few decades, this community has been mostly known for the motels that exist here, right? Whether that was an hourly, weekly, monthly rate that was going on. We started to see City Council really crack down on these motels operating underneath their conditional use permits, because that wasn't happening. And then when COVID came, there was a lot of effort put into purchasing motel properties, Fresno Housing, city and county, purchasing the properties, doing quick like remodel and getting folks into them. And that really started to set the catalyst for housing change here. So where we're sitting at right now is a brand new apartment complex called Manzanilla on Parkway Drive, right? Right across the street is Promesa, another beautiful apartment development that not only changes the landscape of Parkway Drive, right, but is making a huge investment in changing the culture that exists here, right? When you have a place that you call home, and you believe it's your home. You can call your motel room home, but you know it's a motel room, right? When you have an apartment complex with the community space, a playground, your room, right? You start to treat it just a little bit differently, and you start to think just a little bit differently. Like, this is actually my home, right? You start to behave differently. When people start to think differently and behave differently, the energy from that reverberates and echoes throughout the community, and other people are going like, dang, Matt actually looks really good today, man. What's he been doing? And then those conversations happen, right? I've been working out, some whatever. And then other people start going, man, I want some of that too, right? Yeah, that is change. That is power.
Are all those changes because of Richard and living in Fresno? Or what's the picture here?
Yeah. If anyone, let me see, how do I answer that? So much change has happened over the past decade, right, in this community. I have had the honor of sitting with families and carrying their stories, and when I have permission to, sharing those stories. But there's no way that any of this change would have happened just me by myself, right? The understanding of it takes a village, right? Means like materials being brought in from other places to help build and support, right? People from different places and different walks of life coming in to support. Specialized people, right? Talking about like literacy and mentors and artists and people who bring in like the cultural aspect, heavy cultural aspect to the work that we do. Jewelry making, drum circles, right? Like it takes all of us. If anyone ever was to say like, Because of Richard Burrell, man, I'm not gonna say slap them. I'm just gonna say just tell them shh, right? Because that's not the fact. That's not the truth at all. Behind me stands an incredible team. Actually, surrounding me stands an incredible team, and we hold a place that I feel is high honor to be supported by an entire community, right? I don't think we do anything for this neighborhood. I believe we do a whole lot of things with this community. Big difference. Yeah, big difference.
Has it been hard putting in the work over the last 15 years? And
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about that, and then tell me, like, is it worth it?
Yeah. I've told the story of being naive enough to think that, like, if I do these things, life is and it is in so many ways, but the work itself does not come without challenges, right? We still have, like, the addiction, the sex work, the other issues that exist here. And so being a safe person in a safe space comes with a tremendous amount of responsibility. When folks know that, like, you will listen and you are trusted, that means that they're gonna come to you with their stories, which often are very tragic and very, like, it's a lot to take on, right? So that's one part of it. And then figuring out how to navigate people in positions of leadership. School board officials, school board trustees, elected officials, local businesses, right, who all carry their own perspective on what this community is and what it should be. That part can be equally as challenging. But without a doubt, man, without a doubt, right? Like, it is 100% worth it to stand next to the grandmothers, the mothers, the fathers, the staff at Adams Elementary and their principal, who is amazing, and all of our wonderful partners in this work. It is 100% worth it.
What is your vision for the future of living in Fresno and the changes? What's the future you see for this community?
Yeah. There's been a lot of change. There's been a lot of change. And I'm excited about it, that I've been able to, like, be a part of it. I think what excites me the most is the community reimagining what their future is gonna look like, right? New schools, more housing, jobs, like that is beautiful. When I think about internally for the organization, right? New and way younger leaders emerging, right? I think that's beautiful. I'm an old man. I'm 52 years old, man. I don't even know the lingo these kids use these days. And I understand the importance of cultivating, growing leadership. Yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm excited for sitting in rooms where folks are talking about different stores being here, more housing being here, right? Less trucking companies buying up pieces of land and polluting the air even more in this community. Less fast food restaurants, right? Like, more permanent, affordable housing, all the things, man. I'm just like, yeah. I think the culture that exists in this community, the good, loving aspects to it will always be here, right? The parts that we celebrate. And as we continue to grow, the parts that are not so great just shed off, right? Yeah. Yeah. When you have more kids graduating from high school than you do going to prison, like, that is beautiful. That is beautiful to me. That's a future, man, that, like, excites me. Young people who are a part of Live Again, and this is just my very limited experience, right? Who have been a part of the program, have this like ability to see themselves 5 to 15 years down the road, right? These are kids who not so long ago didn't see any type of future for themselves, who are now telling you where they're going to go to school and then where they're going to school after that, the degree they're going to get or the trade that they're going to learn here so that they can help in this way, right? Kids who could not imagine themselves visiting any place outside of this community only because they hadn't been, right? Kids who could not, young people who could not imagine themselves in an actual career outside of law enforcement, CPS, school teacher. They could not. Today, you still hear school teacher, right? Super valuable superheroes, social workers who will always be incredible superheroes to me. Law enforcement, and like neurosurgeons, neurologists, right? Like so many different things that years ago when I asked them, what do you want to be? I don't know, because they didn't know. And now through partnerships, right? Whether it be interns, mentors, or just places that we visit, like this incredible zoo across the street, young people from this community see themselves in a very different way than they have in the generations past. Yeah, man, to be able to be a part of that, like that, I don't have words for that. So my hope is that people who don't know about us are learning about us, whether that's through social media, through our website, liveagainfresno.org, through participating in one of our community events. My hope is that it would go further than just like watching a reel or a post or whatever the thing is called, right? That they would actually like either through the website or emailing any of us, which is also on the website, fill out a volunteer application form and go through the process of spending time at our community space, right? Of like stepping outside of what their career path may be or their job may be, and just stepping into the experience of a community that is rich in culture and children who have so much love to give, right? That they would in some way contribute to just the better opportunities for these children. I know not everyone has the time to volunteer or volunteer consistently, but there are opportunities to support financially as well through our website. We feed these kids Monday through Friday. Every day of the week, we cook hot, healthy meals for them, which is super important. Understanding just the complexities of no access really to food, healthy food in this community. That's super important. And then art, music, dance. There are a multitude of ways that people can support. My hope is that like, if you can write a check and donate in that way, do it, right? All that money is going to the program and to support the kids in the community. But I'm always been a lover of action, right? And so like, step into something that might be a little uncomfortable for you, right? I've literally had adults say like, I want to help, I just don't know what to do. And I'm like, bro, can you read Dr. Seuss? And like, thinking that I'm joking, right? But I'm serious. Like, can you sit down with a child and read? Can you do that? Can you play hopscotch, foursquare, jump rope? Can you chalk draw on a wall? Can you show up and put your phone away, right? Can you show up and just hear this young person? That's all you gotta do. Sometimes that's all we need to do to feel better about ourselves that day, is knowing that someone is here to support me, right? You could be doing anything, but you're here to support me. And that goes a long way. Yeah, huge thanks to Tamani Heights, Fresno County Office of Education. She has been a huge supporter through all her career growth within Fresno Unified School District. Huge thank you to Tamani. Huge thank you to Darren Person and Alondra Belmontes from Community Schools. They have been an incredible partner. JD Foods, Cal Custom Tile, Ashwood Construction, BHC, all being partners who come and help in so many different ways. Fresno Housing Authority for making the huge investments, right? Not just money here and there, but like actual dollars for programming. The investment in quality housing here, huge, right? Fresno Chaffee Zoo, them opening the doors, making sure that one day out of the week, the zoo is open specifically to children from the community that surrounds that incredible place, right? The Live Again Fresno board and the incredible work that they do, helping to keep me on track, big job, right? Creating sustainability within the organization so we can continue to move forward. I absolutely love the work that Live Again Fresno is doing and has done. It has been an absolute honor, right? The highs, the lows, I love all of it. This year has been huge in our growth. We have a brand new building that'll be being built very soon. We have a whole remodel on our existing building that's been happening, including new gates and security systems and all this stuff, new staff coming on. Yeah, we're continuing to grow, and it's only because of support from our community partners and a big embrace from this neighborhood. Yeah.